it.
They present the popular radio program Political Platform on the Ray Power FM network. Ray Power FM Political Platform, now on television. Keep track of the country's polity and be part of the process as they discuss and put political developments in the country into perspective. It's Ray Power Political Platform on AIT Abuja.
Hello, good morning and welcome to Political Platform. My name is Amechi Anakwe. Now the big story is a rumble in the petroleum sector. The NNPC towers, some power play, power fight, struggle for relevance, struggle for dominance. The Minister of State for Petroleum, KACHUKWU, in a letter written to the President on August 30, but what was leaked to the social media yesterday, detailed how he alleged that the Group Managing Director of NNPC, Kanti Baru, had disrespected and humiliated him for the past 1 year. Of course, it is quite interesting coming from that, and so many will say it is not unusual coming from the APC, where we have seen lots of party members and those that should work in concert for the meeting of objectives to be going after each other's jugular. The journalist in Madeke is pleading that the EFCC and in court in Nigeria should invite her to be part of a case in which her name has been mentioned. She said she's ready to indeed come and take a plea and defend her name, and is tired of being tried in the media, and she wants to come back home, be invited to come back home and participate in that case. 60% of Nigeria's capital projects for 2017 budget to be rolled over to 2018. This came from the cabinet ministers, two of them, when they met with the senators yesterday. We were told that about 440 billion have so far been released as capital expenditure, just 300 released with a promise of additional 100 billion in the next few years. And Benue State workers have joined their colleagues in Kogi State to embark on an indefinite strike over the failure of the state governments to indeed pay their entitlements. And today we shall be taking you to Anambra, the INEC chairman telling us of preparations by the body to indeed ensure a hitch-free and credible elections in Anambra State. Adebayo Bodure is with me as usual on the program.
Yeah, Amishi, I think the situation in the NNPC, between the face-off between the minister and the group managing director of NNPC is really very worrisome. You will recall at the beginning of this administration that the minister KACHUKWU was both the Minister of State for Petroleum and also the group managing director for NNPC. And Baru is currently the group managing director of NNPC, was one of his executive directors. And from available information, although these are things that I think they are yet to react to, was that the frosty relationship actually started while they were working together at NNPC before, because Baru's name was coming up most of the time. And
as a GMD NNPC,
as GMD NNPC, before the announcement was made, and he was removed from what was considered, well, we say exploration. It was moved to another place before it was brought.
Technical advisor to the minister.
Then all of a sudden, the thing ended. The minister became minister. He remained as minister and was removed and became the chairman of NNPC. And Baru emerged as group managing director. What does this say? The totality of it is that you now find out that every month or monthly basis we have this face-off. If it's not between the EFCC boss and the minister and the attorney general, today we are now witnessing it in NNPC. And I think it is not good. It's really not good. I think the president needs to call all his appointees into order, because these are distractions that will not enable them to settle down and properly do what they ought to do in the interest of the nation. We'll be lucky so far. Prices of oil went down, then it increased again, and gradually we're out of recession. and now the price is going down. In the midst of rift, how do we have a united group that can go to OPEC and negotiate for on behalf of the nation, increase quota in such a way that we will be able to gain maximally? I think this rift is uncalled for. The presidents need to call the two of them to order, not just the two of them. Other areas where there are face-off, the president needs to call all of them to order in the interest of the nation.
We shall be giving you the breakdown. When you see this kind of rift from the major revenue earner for the country, then you can as well guess that you should ring an alarm bell in the ears of everybody. But first, let's hear from you. Let's gauge your mind as we select some of the mails you sent to our email platform, politicalplatform@yahoo.com.
Welcome to the mail segment. I am Ife Nwanwobi.
I am Usaitin Yari. Welcome.
We have a harvest of mails here, and we will be starting with this one coming from Dixon Eka in Abuja on the tussle in NNPC. He says, the power tussle between the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and the Group Managing Director of NNPC is an unfortunate one. We've had such disagreements and rivalries many times in the present administration, from the Ministry of Transportation and Aviation to the Ministry of Finance and Customs, to the Ministry of Justice and EFCC, to the Ministry of Health and NHIS, and now to the Ministry of Petroleum and the NNPC. These power tussles are unnecessary, as the constitution and acts of these agencies painstakingly spelt out their modus operandi. A situation where heads of government agencies use their relationship with the president to abuse the work schedule and channel of communication as enshrined in their acts is dangerous and should be condemned totally. I urge the president to caution his appointees and compel them to obey the rules of engagement of their offices.
More reactions. Emeka Mba in Abuja says that the crack in President Buhari's cabinet is widening by the day, with accusations and counter-accusations bordering on incompetence and corrupt practices, is no longer news or worrisome anymore. What is news and worrisome is that Mr. President is neither saying nor doing anything about the emerging rot in his cabinet. The report indicting the suspended SGF and DGNIA is comatose. Professor Sage's complaints about the Attorney General and the leadership of the ruling APC are ignored. Public outcry to remove inept and incompetent people in the cabinet is taken for granted. With all this, I am almost sure that KACHUKWU'S leaked memo to the president accusing the GMD of NNPC of gross illegalities that might ultimately hurt the country will be ignored too. Please, political platform, let's keep shouting, even from the rooftops, until the president acts for the sake of the country.
And then Akin Raphael from Central Area in Abuja says, with recent event unfolding at the Federal Ministries of Finance, Budget and National Planning, suffice it to say there is no hope in the Nigerian budget. How else would we describe a situation where expectations are raised after the president assented to a budget, only for hopes to be dashed because of the impossibility of its implementation? In this year's budget, over 2.177 trillion was allocated to capital projects, but so far, only 310 billion has been released, with a plan to release additional 100 billion plus. How would the country develop? The government should set up a think tank on budget funding and implementation. It's sad that at the end of the year, only 400 billion plus capital vote would have been released. Not a good way to go.
Reacting to issues in the polity, Austin in Nasarawa State says, Garba Shehu said people criticizing President Buhari and his government want to be settled so they can keep quiet. The truth of the matter is that the APC-led government is an enemy to criticism. When you criticize, you become the enemy of the government. But the APC should not forget that criticism was his lifestyle when it was in opposition. My advice to APC is for it to be tolerant with criticism and accept it. By doing so, it will adjust and take corrections where necessary. Democracy also allows criticism, so they should not shy away from it. That's it on the mail segment for today. Keep writing to politicalplatform@yahoo.com.
Busted.
They present the popular radio program Political Platform on the Ray Power FM network. Ray Power FM Political Platform, now on television. Keep track of the country's polity and be part of the process as they discuss and put political developments in the country into perspective. It's Ray Power Political Platform on AIT Abuja.
Thank you so much for the mess. Let's start from the NNPC, where we have a Group Managing Director, Mekanti Baru, and a Minister of State for Petroleum, Ebe Kachukwu. Recall that President Muhammad Buhari still retains his position as a substantive Minister of Petroleum. Of course, there were some actions the GMD of NNPC took, which, according to Ebe Kachukwu, appear not to be in line with the extant laws. For instance, in the letter that was leaked to the press yesterday, he alleged that the recent appointment in the NNPC was done without consultation to the board or even to himself as a minister, and contracts what over $24 billion was awarded without recourse to the board, saying that this is a flagrant violation of laid down procedure, that the GMD, according to him, takes action without referring to the board or to him. He said he wrote to the president. Of course, that letter got to the president on August 30, and in that letter he said he had made spirited attempts severally to meet with the president to speak with him on this issue, but it was unsuccessful. So could it be that he was fenced off from seeing the president, a minister? What's the relationship between a minister and a president? How often can a minister see a president? These are some of these issues. But of course, the case is out there in the media. It was leaked. Who leaked it? Could it be from the presidency or from Kachukwu himself? Was he frustrated that apparently he submitted a letter more than 1 month ago and nothing was done to it, and somehow it missed? These are all conjectures we're looking at. The NNPC is here to comment. They said the letter was not addressed to them, but to the presidency, that they will react appropriately when, of course, they see the content of the letter.
I think this issue is an issue that should be of interest to the president, because first and foremost, he is the Minister of Petroleum. Ebe Kachukwu is Minister of State for Petroleum. So if the ministry under his supervision they are having bickerings and which can retard progress in that sector, I think it should be of interest to him. He should act fast, either call them to order or try to resolve the differences. And if the cases leveled are so pronounced, I think there should be a way to sort it out. If those to be punished should be punished. If there is no need to punish anybody, then it doesn't punish anybody. But it's not an issue that should be swept under the carpet.
Of course, I said earlier, an organization that produces nearly 90% of our foreign exchange and about 75 to 80% of our total revenue, and then you should know that if we must have peace and calm in any part of the country, it must be within the NNPC. We await the response of the president. The Minister of Petroleum, Kachukwu is the Minister of State, but was given the privilege to be the chairman of the board of NNPC. Of course, this is not the first in-house fighting we are seeing in the last 2 days. In the last 2 years, almost everywhere, starting from even the family of the president, when the wife came out to make statements suggesting that she may not support him in 2019 because, according to her, his government has been hijacked, to the APC itself, a party that has failed to indeed hold a National Executive Committee meeting and a convention since it came to power, to the key ministries of government, key agencies working in the anti-corruption campaign. It's been in-house fighting, what have you. We need the president to really put his house in order. Even within the presidency, we hear some in-house fighting and intrigues going on. He really needs to put his feet down and, of course, arrest the situation for Nigeria to be on a straight path to unity and development. I'm moving. Adeba, you want to add something here?
No. I think we just moved to Anambra State now, and the INEC national chairman Mamoru Yakubu yesterday he spoke on quite a number of issues, ranging from problems they are facing and what steps they are taking to tackle them. He spoke on voters turnout. He was surprised that on Saturday there was a by-election in Lagos, and the percentage of people who turn out were very, 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 very disappointing. But yet, a winner has to emerge. And he said, well, they are doing their job. They will up the activities in terms of voters' education. But it is the duty of the political parties, of the candidates, of the media, and the civil society groups to assist in mobilizing citizens to participate in election. And the one major thing he also announced, which I think is good, and that the INEC need to be praised for, is that the planning for each election, they don't wait and take decision at late hour. For tomorrow, as he announced yesterday, the dates for the election in Ekiti and Osun will be announced. Will be made public tomorrow. I know the last election in Ekiti took place in June 2014. The one in Osun took place in August 2014. So INEC is announcing far ahead of those dates, the dates for the election in the two states next year. And I think it's a welcome development. And you can also recall that very early this year, the INEC made public the dates for election, for the general election in 2019. I think if they could work this way, it will probably assist in terms of planning, so that you don't just wake up
everybody on notice.
Put everybody on notice, and everybody now start planning on what they want to do. And then one major thing also cautioned before we go into Anambra was that he said those who are campaigning for 2019, they seems to be jumping the gun. That INEC is yet, they have fixed it, yes, but they have not released the guidelines and the timetable for the 2019 general election. So
you can consult behind the scene, you can reach out, but to come out publicly, maybe in reference to what the Ekiti State Governor Ayofayese did, is against the law. Can he be prosecuted? Are there sanctions for such when you violate the rules and laws of our election, where we allow INEC to take the final decision? But talking of Anambra, of course, the INEC chairman said there have been no distractions for the commission. Everything seemed to be going on well. Observers and monitors appointed, officials well trained, waiting to be deployed. The card reader fully functional, waiting to be deployed. We're just waiting for November 18, when the people of the state will choose who will be their next governor. But let's hear from the chairman of INEC himself on the situation in Anambra before we come back to analysis of actions on ground in Anambra.
As you are aware, the Anambra governorship election is scheduled to hold in the next 45 days on Saturday, 18th November 2017. Already, a record number of political parties, 37 parties are fielding candidates in the Anambra election. This is the largest number of parties participating in any governorship election in the history of our democracy. The Commission has so far accredited 46 observers from both civil society and the international community. Media accreditation will be done a week to the election, which is the standard practice that INEC has worked out with the media, which also allows for greater flexibility.
You can't take it away from my people in Anambra State. Record number of parties participating in an election, 37. Well, the more the merrier. That's what democracy is all about.
I think it's an interesting development. Particularly some of the parties are like, it's not before when they just exist in name. At least they are feeding candidates, and we now look up to the level of performance they could. But the totality of it, if you look at it, is that it's a game of contenders, pretenders, and spoilers. That's
and godfathers.
And that's precisely what we are witnessing. If you look at it thoroughly, the list of those who are actually in the race, you just know that there are few contenders, and we have plenty spoilers and plenty jokers. It's a welcome development. It's democracy. The parties should be encouraged to field candidates. I think the more the merrier. And seeing that kind of figure from Anambra State shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
Well, I spoke with one candidate of a Young Democratic Party, and a young man, just 34, I asked him, your young age, is it a hindrance? And again, are you one of the spoilers? But he said, if you think he's a spoiler, then we'll have to wait for the result in November 19 or so, just after a day after the election, to see how record will be made in Anambra State. That a lot of young people are with him, that of course he receives a quite good number of support back home. But looking at the big parties, the incumbent, of course, you can't take it away from an incumbent, power of incumbents. Obiano, he was in Aso Rock Presidential Villa yesterday for a meeting with the president, where he pushed for free and fair elections in Anambra State. But of course, it appears he's standing alone. The coalition, the structure that brought him to power 4 years ago, is no longer in existence. Peter Obi and even the candidate of the PDP, Osei Lokobaze, were of ABGA 4 years ago. The PDP candidate was with ABGA till last 3-4 months ago, when he pulled out and joined the PDP and became a candidate.
He was actually the secretary of the government. You know, he served towards the last months of Obi's administration.
SSG.
Yeah, he was secretary of the government, and then he continued with Obiano. But one way or the other, they seems to have fallen apart. That is not unexpected in politics, particularly the kind of politics we play in this country. And then you have a former student union leader and two-time member of National Assembly, also running on the ticket of APC,
Tony Nwoye.
So he's going to be a very keen game. And then you have Osita Oshidoka, who left the PDP and crossed over to UPP. And he has already launched his campaign on Saturday. And so it's going to be a battle. And there are calculations, schemings, and all the rest that are already going on. And we can assure our listeners that several days before that election, we'll be on the ground. We'll be able to relate to you what is happening, the preparation, we monitor it. And then we are going to cover that election live. We are deploying quite a large number of reporters and cameramen for our television arm, and also reporters for our radio arm, who are going to be on ground in Anambra State and in all the local governments to capture what is going there and report whether the election is actually free and fair, as promised by the Independent National Electoral Commission.
The lines between the parties in Anambra are very fluid. You know, Tony Nwoye was the candidate of the PDP in the last election. Soon after that, he won a ticket to contest the House of Representatives election under PDP. He won, but not too long after the party lost in the center here during the last election, he moved over to the APC. Now he's the APC candidate. A former student union leader, a former chairman of PDP in Anambra State. So you can see the movement with some of PDP members from that party to, of course, the APC. Of course, you rightly mentioned Osta Chidoka of the PDP moving over to UPP. And of course, Peter Obi, his name keeps coming up. Sometimes, as if Peter Obi is still running in that election, it appears he has a lot of stake in that election. But the candidate is Osei Lokobaze, of course, of the ABGA, but back to the PDP now. So you can see the movement, the triple jumps, the high jumps, the long jumps that politicians are noted for. It's playing out very well in Anambra State.
If you study closely Anambra politics, particularly at the early stages of this Fourth Republic, you will discover that virtually almost everybody in this race, they are one time or the other, they were PDP members. And because PDP was dominant party then, and that was before the formation of ABGA. And if we look at ABGA itself, Sheka Asokore, who formed ABGA, who is now the leader, who is now leading the UPP, was a PDP member. He broke away and formed ABGA. And then ABGA succeeded in winning the governorship election in Anambra State. And since then, they have maintained their dominance. But with the current movement of people from PDP, from other party to another party and all the rest, I think the game may change this time around. So it's an election that probably it will not be clear who will be the winner until the results are announced.
It will definitely be close. Big parties will forget the PPA. Zimo also saying that he stands some good chances. But let's do development at the national level and leave Anambra for now. The budget. Our budget. The National Assembly members upon resumption raise alarm that the implementation is low. From their records, they say 10% so far, especially from the capital budget. And they say for an economy that is slightly out of recession, 0.55% GDP growth rate, that if this budget is not implemented fully, we may indeed be forced back to recession. And so they invited some cabinet ministers. And yesterday, the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udo Udoma, and Finance, Kemi Adosho, as well as the Director of the Budget Office, KACHUKWU'S, led some other officials for a meeting with the lawmakers. And they say, yes, we're having problems. Much of the money for the implementation of the capital budget in the budget are meant to be borrowed. And the approvals for the borrowing plan to come from the National Assembly have not been forthcoming. So there's a big problem here where the National Assembly is unable to approve the borrowing plan and the government is hamstrung in implementing the budget. There's a big problem. Good enough, both arms of the government are now talking, and we hope that indeed very soon they will resolve this issue. But the ministers gave indications that because we want to revert to January to December financial year and plan, that the bulk of projects in this year's capital budget will be moved over to 2018 budget.
I think, well, whether it is moved or not moved, the totality of it is that there is something worrisome about capital budget implementation since 1999, and I think something needs to be done. We have not witnessed a situation where capital projects were executed in an impressive manner that can put a smile on the faces of the citizens, and this is an area which I think need to be looked into. It's not only the government at the center; it's also applicable in the states. And I think it's just because there is so much focus on government at the center that even those at the states are being ignored. Some of their capital projects are sometimes they are also not executed, and I think this is an area that we critically look into. If there are promises at the beginning of the year that this is what the government, this is the task government set for itself, they must see to its execution, not a quakes of moving it over to another year, which we are not sure whether they will be implemented. I think there's need to buy several thinking caps on how we can facilitate implementation of capital projects.
There's an Alison Madeke begging to be joined in a case. He says she wants to defend her name, but some people are asking, if you want to defend your name, why don't you on your own volition come back to Nigeria and of course move away from the United Kingdom where she has been since she left office. But she says she wants to be joined so that she can physically come to the court and take her plea. For want of time, we may not be able to go into this, but we promise you on Thursday, this and more will be up for discussions and analysis on political platform. On behalf of Adeboye Bodore and the production crew, my name is Amechi Anakwe. Thanks for being part of today's edition, but do remember to keep a day with us on Thursday.
Bust it!